It was the voice of a young woman screaming for her lover to please spare her life. And this was heard by multiple witnesses. Hi, welcome to another episode of Tales from the Attic. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at a place that's right here in the middle of the city. And it has a reputation that is somewhat actually scary. This place is known as the Screaming Well. Legend has it that in the winter of 1779, Guillermo Elmore Sands, better known as Elma Sands, was having an affair with a person by the name of Levi Weeks. Now, this would have been uninteresting if not for the fact that Levi Weeks was actually a very rich person in the society. He moved in some of the best circles. He had some of the best friends at the time. Whereas Elma was from the absolute opposite end of society. She was destitute, she was living in poverty, and she was basically from the slums. Now, if word of their affair got out, it would have ended up being really bad for Weeks because his crowd would have absolutely shunned him. However, it didn't stop them from having their torrid love affair. Now, Levi wanted the whole affair kept under wraps. He wanted nobody to know about this. Whereas Elma couldn't help herself. She needed to tell everybody about this amazing person she was in love with and about this guy who was going to take her out of poverty and make all her dreams come true and build this wonderful world for her. Sad to say, this became a problem for Levi. So, on the evening of December 27th, she was invited out to spend a wonderful evening with Levi. And Elma figures, tonight's the night. Tonight he is going to propose to me. It's gonna be, something amazing. And tonight is the night that my world is going to change. Tonight is the night that all my dreams come true. So she put on her best clothes and she put on her best makeup. She looked as beautiful as she could and she left to meet Meeks. Now, sadly, that was the last time anyone would see Elma alive. A few days later, two children were playing by a well when, as children would do, they peeked over to see inside the well and they saw some clothing floating down there. So they flagged down a cop and they told him about what they'd seen. The cop then proceeded to investigate further, sadly to find the body of Elma at the bottom of the well. Now, when her body was retrieved, there were bruising to her neck and her back. And the bruising was consistent with strangulation and then later being dragged. So the idea that she was first murdered and then dumped in the well. Now, the moment this happened, all of Elma's friends and everybody who knows her immediately told the police it had to be Weeks, because Weeks is the one who was last seen with her, and Weeks is the only one who would want her dead because he wanted to silence her. So based on this, there was an investigation about Weeks, and this investigation went big. The whole of New York City was talking about it. It became talk of the town. And in public, in a lot of public opinion, Weeks was responsible. And the court of public opinion turned entirely against Weeks. But Weeks had an ace in the hole. And that one was the fact that he had money and power and connections to two of the best lawyers at the time. These two lawyers were none other than Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. Yep, those two. Although there were multiple witnesses who had seen Weeks and Elma walk off into the forest together, Hamilton and Burr came up with the story that Weeks took her aside to tell her that he was not intending to marry her and that he was breaking everything off with her. And, that he needed to get back to his society. She needed to go live her life in her society. When he told her that, she apparently got heartbroken and ran away in a fit of sadness, throwing herself into the well and subsequently dying. Now, the evidence that was collected, which is like the marks on her neck and the marks on her back, and all of this pointed to the fact that Alexander Hamilton's story was not true. It couldn't be. But in that day and age, their names and the fact that Weeks was from a higher society, that carried weight. And within 5 minutes, the jury decided that Weeks was innocent and he went scot-free. So Elma, sadly, never got the justice that she deserved. After the trial had ended, nobody wanted to use that well as a source of water, obviously, right? So what they did was they built a house over the well. And, with the hopes that that would change how people perceive the well and the area in general. But that was not to be. Because in 1895, a magazine called American Magazine carried a story which claimed that young women and men who passed by the house in the night could hear screams coming from inside this house. The origin of the screams was the well. And what was being said when the screams were heard is actually what got people terrified. It was the voice of a young woman screaming for her lover to please spare her life. And this was heard by multiple witnesses back then. Since then, multiple people have taken ownership of this particular house. It went from many different hands and it became many different things over time, from government offices to private businesses and storefronts. In the 1980s, this particular house became a bistro known as the Manhattan Bistro. The bistro was very famous for weird things happening. Like there would be cold spots, in different places around the bistro. Plates and things would move around. People would report, hushed voices, but nothing too crazy. It was just, hey, it's part of the charm, right? So, and nobody took it serious. In the 1980s, the owners of the bistro decided that they wanted to find out what was actually in the basement. So they cleared out the basement, which means they removed all the sand that was covering the well in the basement. Now, the day that was done, the supernatural activity in the restaurant went crazy. It was like it instantly doubled everything. Lights would all of a sudden go out. People would hear voices, angry voices coming at them. Cups, plates, saucers, and even knives would get flung across the room. Things would happen that were just unexplainable. And the entire supernatural phenomenon started taking on a lot more of an angry feel. And I mean, it's kind of understandable, right? Given the idea that the spirit behind this, Elma's spirit, never got justice. So she is angry and she's in pain. And what's even more freaky is that people have claimed to actually see her. This happened a couple of times when people found the courage to actually dare one another to go down into the basement. When they went down into the basement, they claimed that they saw a lady seated in the corner of the basement, drenched, having water dripping off her like she just climbed out of the well. And In doing so, she has this look of pure malice and anger. Now, people who've seen her have seen her for a split second, and the look is so scary that they get, out of there. But that is not the only sighting. Others have actually claimed to see her elsewhere in the building as well. Now, the sightings of her continue right up to today. Even after the bistro closed, a lot of people subsequently who had that building have seen her. Now, today, the building is a storefront for a really famous brand, and they have very, very, upscale clothes there. And there was a joke that one of the people that worked there had said that, hopefully the ghost would like to dress minimalistic in line with the styles that are there today. Now, although over time the paranormal activity has calmed down a little bit, still to this day in the present store there are lots of stories about inventory disappearing and about things being moved around. Like, you'd hang something somewhere and you'd find it in a completely different place, and then you'd find things that you put down moved to somewhere else. You'd find cold spots. You'd find unusual, like, you're getting unusual feelings when you're in certain parts of the store. And all of this is attributed to Elma. Now, Elma may never have actual justice for the crime that was committed against her. But what she will always have is the hearts of the people who live in the building that she now and forever will call home. That is the story of the Screaming Well. What do you think? Do you think that's a true story? Or do you think it's just a very tall tale? That's for you to decide, my friend. Go check it out. Do your own research. Check it out. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, if you enjoyed the story, please smash that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the stories coming out. Thank you again. Until we meet again, take care. Bye-bye. Have a good one.